because today it will be about Caravaggio, the inevitable painter of our age. Maybe one day one should stop talking about Caravaggio and let his painting simply be. But only until your book will be published, and we can stop and turn to other also interesting artists. If the piece on Leonardo was very much on holes, and that holes are things which give consistency to structures and bodies. This one will be on the hinge, and hinges in the hinge principle in Caravaggio. Where's the relation to topology? Well, on the one hand, hinges are little machines which make it possible that certain kinds of objects can be folded, and of course there's an interest in folds to be found in topology, famously developed in the book of Deleuze on Leibniz. But hinges are also about how things hang together or not together. Are they connected? Are they not connected? Do they hang together or are they separated? So like holes, hinges are also a condition of possibility of connecting or also disconnecting things in a certain way. And topology is, if there's one mathematical discipline about connections, disconnections, and how things hang together, is precisely topology. The hinge, however, is something which in certain ways also escapes topological formalization, because it has this paradoxical character of something which is continuous and yet discontinuous. And again, we come here and will be confronted with the problem, is it two things or is it one thing? Or is there maybe a third thing which articulates the relationship between the two things? So this just to say that this second seminar isn't totally disconnected from the first. There is some relation, but it's also disconnected. It will be quite different. But not related to the place we are sitting here, because coming here into this room from the gallery, there is this it may be a work of art relating to the Narcissus of Caravaggio in 4 pieces and presented in different kinds of ways. And the Narcissus has played some interesting role in thinking about folds or folding procedures in Caravaggio, because Hubert Damisch in one essay said that this painting, be it from Caravaggio himself or not, that this painting can be described as a tableau ployant, and I think he also said something like it might be considered a latent diptych. I would say the Narcissus is more something like a latent laptop, not a diptych, because the fold is not vertical but horizontal. But I think it's an important remark, only that Damisch concentrated only on this painting and thought that this duplicity would have to do only with the content, with the Narcissus, whereas I think, no, he didn't think it only has to do with the content, but he started from, he saw a very deep relation to the content, whereas I think that this is a general principle, very important in Caravaggio. So I think one can, moving from this remark of Damisch, one can enfold it, as it were, and see that it has much more importance than he might have thought himself. Now, in what follows, you will see something about my formation and deformation, as an art historian coming from Vienna, because it's a really very formalistic piece. And maybe it's not even a piece of art history, but only of art criticism. Art criticism in this now relating to a painter of the past, to Caravaggio. It's not developed as a historical piece, and you may be maybe not shocked, but you may have asked yourself, but where is the art historical part of this? Well, I didn't yet develop it, and I think that some kind of formalist art criticism has heuristic qualities, and brings us to questions which might then and should then be treated historically. So much as introduction to this. From my stuttering English today, you may conclude, and this is right, that I'm relieved that I've written this down as a text, so I can read it. So I'm very, very relaxed now. If the PowerPoint presentation is okay, this will be great for me. Just read it. Maybe not so great for you, because it's more difficult to listen to read texts than to presentations, even if they are stuttered. The motivation for the following remarks, maybe I do this here, motivation is a paradox. The consistency of Caravaggio's painting, as it seems to me, is grounded in discontinuities, and the forms of coherence characteristic of this painting are produced by interruptions. Connecting and separating are connected in it in a paradoxical way. This is the paradox that I'm addressing here, and that prompts me to speak. Since I'm not able to fathom it immediately, I will choose a theme that lies closer to the surface and pursue the double or duplicitous nature that these pictures have in common. This may sound surprising. Caravaggio's art is not automatically associated with doubling or duplicity. Instead, one is inclined to see in it an art of cuts and breaks, blows, stitches, and incisions. And yet it is also, maybe even above all, a painting of doubling or duplicity. The more one comprehends about this and the resulting duplicitous symmetries, the better one can understand, I think, how interruption and coherence cohere in Caravaggio. So you see from this, I'm very much interested in these paradoxical structures. Now, paradoxes are something which can't really rationally be spelled out, because there's a contradiction in them, but nevertheless paradoxes are very strong instances of that which makes one speak for some reason. First of all, it is necessary to understand of what nature is the doubling or duplicity characteristic of Caravaggio's art. You will see in this presentation, this seminar, I'm very much interested in saying a little bit about paintings and analyzing them a little bit. And some of these analytic remarks are good and some are bad. And you will of course see what's to the point and what's not to the point. Let us consider it's necessary to understand of what nature is the doubling or duplicity characteristic of Caravaggio's art. Let us consider an open book or a notebook. What we have before us is the simple case of a bilaterally symmetrical structure. The axis of symmetry is embodied in the fold, which exists as a moment of separation, the demonstratio ad oculos, which exists as a moment of separation and simultaneously of connection between the two pages. Open books and notebooks are among Caravaggio's favorite leitmotifs. Let's look at a pair of examples, at a couple of examples, beginning with a relatively early work, The Rest on the Flight into Egypt, very well known at the Galleria Doria Pamphili in Rome. The pictorial field is divided in such a way that a two-sided structure emerges that embodies an opposition. To the left, a barren world. To the right, a thriving one. To the left, open eyes, the nicest of which is the eye of the donkey, of course, behind Joseph. To the right, closed eyes, and the self-completing group, self-enclosed group of protecting mother and protected child. Everything closed on the right side. In the middle is the figure of the musician angel. His left wing, exactly in the painting's central axis, is like an open door. His right wing is like a door that is closed or ajar, and that shields the group of mother and child. Saint Joseph dutifully holds the score for the angel. Another notebook. The double-sidedness of the music book and the corresponding duplicity of the angel's wings reflects the entire painting's twofold structure. The painting itself has two sides, like the book or the two wings of the angel. It is a latent diptych with a fold in the central axis. A highly suitable theme when one considers the good old question of how Mary could become a mother but remain a virgin married to a bachelor, no less. Here we see them, the Virgin Mother et son célibataire même, and in between the lovely angel hinge. Let's go further and consider Amor Victorious, also another painting very well known to you. And here you see the difficulties in representation paintings by Caravaggio, be it in books or on projection how do you call this, screens. That the problem with the black, with the dark colors, and okay, but this is important because it reminds us that we don't see paintings but just projected reproductions of paintings, and that basically we don't understand nothing. Painting of the Gemälde Galerie in Berlin, originally painted for Vincenzo Giustiniani, as you know. To the left, 5 bilaterally symmetrical objects are lying on the floor. A lute, a violin, a musical score, and a square, passing between the arms of a compass. So here's the compass, and here's the ruler, I would say. These two objects intertwined. The symmetry of the musical score, you see this, the musical score is disrupted because one side of it is curled backward oddly, forming a kind of tube. This makes a specific commonality of the book, ruler and compass, or square and compass, all the more striking, namely that all three display in their center a fold, an angle, or a joint, respectively. This is the common thing between all these objects. Not only a question of symmetry, but they have this kind of thing, which is articulating two sides. Another of these debased objects lying on, or actually thrown to the floor, can be seen to the right in the picture's foreground. Very difficult to see, even in Berlin, and here impossible. This is a cuirass without a head or core, like all cuirasses without wearers, though equipped with several hinges and a sharp projection on the breast. it takes a while to see the thing rightly because it is so bent, out of shape. Fuori sagoma. Yeah, here it's impossible to see it, but of course you see it's a cuirass. This is the upper part, this is the lower part. Here's this thing you've got in the middle of a cuirass, so it's also some kind of edge, and this is actually the second part of the lower piece, and of course also there are the hinges connecting this, and this is very sharply articulated because this is so much forced out of form. Having come this far, an analogy becomes apparent with the music book and the body of the youth. Between this music book, body of the youth. The ungentle contact with the floor spreads the armor apart. The left part of the leg protector has been bent forcibly to the side. This is analogous to the mistreated music book, but above all to the likewise wantonly spread left upper thigh of armor. If one comes, same kind of operation. If one comes close enough to the painting, one will also notice that directly below this victorious armor is a folio is lying. This is here. A folio is, this is a kind of mosaic structure here, it's interesting. A folio is lying half concealed. It has been opened with some force. One could say it has been shut inside out because it's a book, in a way it's a book. I won't do this to your notebook. But the wrong way. At the same time, in the axis over the book, another self-divided thing becomes visible, here not so much, to a limited extent, but clearly enough. In this area, we don't see it here. The kuhl of armor. As the rear end of the winged youth, who makes it known that he doesn't give that's how he relates to the world. Book fold and bodily folds correspond. One need not immediately delve into the fold or invagination in the white fabric that the youth is sitting on in order to be able to say the picture shows a striking number of buckled and folded bodies, as well as those that are produced by foldings. This is, of course, some kind of body produced by folding. Let's now look at the picture as a whole. We notice that the central axis of armor's upper body corresponds with the vertical axis of the painting. Even though the head of the youth does not lie in this axis, but to the right of it. The central axis of his upper body, which is simultaneously that of the picture, is not crowned by a head. Armor's body, so we've got here a central axis of this body, but then there's this moment of bending the head to the side. So here above the central axis there's nothing. The head goes very much to the side, is folded or bent to the side. The central axis of his upper body, which simultaneously is that of the picture, is not crowned by a head. Armor's body approximates the structure of the musical score and book, and even more so that of the cuirass, over which he is at this moment only seemingly victorious. He, the victorious youth, is himself on the verge of transforming into a headless but many-limbed folding body. Here, I would like to interrupt the course of the argumentation or descriptions and insert an excursus on lost heads and battered faces. There is no need to point out that the connection between head and body in Caravaggio's painting is highly problematic. This painting opposes the idea of the head as the crowning of the body. Not that Caravaggio has anything against columns or other prominent axes. He just doesn't want to bring these axes to a head or use them to force a resolution. He wants to treat them as folds, edges, or bends, and wants to be able to fold or bend them himself one more time. In the worst case, the head must consequently be divided from the body, because it is this closing principle. But it can also be twisted around or laid to one side. Amor in Berlin exhibits a typical motive. Caravaggio loves to fold or force his main figure's heads to one side. The most well-known examples include the Madonna of Loreto in Sant'Agostino in Rome, the crowning with thorns, fantastic, because the Madonna of Loreto, fantastic Vienna picture with forceful. It's very much motivated, of course, by the subject of this painting. And the flagellation of Christ in Naples. Do I have it here? No. But you know it by heart. Sometimes the artist provides the head with a formal counterbalance, such as in the form of a shoulder or a wing. Here a little bit, no, this prominent shoulder, typical motive also in the Bacchus, and there's then this counter motive to the head, so there's two heads. In these cases, the head is no longer by any means the dominant principle of an axis of symmetry, but rather it is one of the two symmetrically related body parts between which an imaginary axis runs. In the Bacchus at the Uffizi, unfortunately I have no image, but you know this by heart as well, it seems to me that there is at least two balancing motives that can be seen as paired with the head. On the one hand, the youth's strangely inflated right shoulder. One remembers this motive very because it's one of the strange effects of the painting. On the other hand, the bowl of fruit, which really is a grotesque anti-head. There's head and anti-head in the Bacchus at the Uffizi. Fortunately, I haven't got it. Caravaggio's aesthetic head hunting, if it can so be called, is a chapter in itself. Clearly, very important chapter. It belongs to the general problematic of the cut, about which Louis Marin has written so inspiredly. However, this problem cannot be entirely bracketed out here.